All right. Thursday, May 24th. This one will be first period because I'm going to try and label each class because I'll try to record, I think, every class today. The reason being is that today goes in a different direction for each class period. And so I had no idea what particular talk we're going to have until the class begins and we start getting into it. And it just sort of depends on how things go from there. So the previous 3 days were all about me and my poor choices and leading into them. Those are, for the most part, much easier days because it's just me going through and telling stories. Today's a little bit different in the fact that I'm not telling stories. Today is really what all the previous days were building up to, was this day. I have some screens behind me I'm going to put up there in a moment, but they're more just to sort of help guide me. Because my issue is I have roughly an hour and a half worth of information that I'm going to try and get to you in about 30 minutes. And I just don't know what 30 minutes you guys are going to get. It just sort of depends on what path we get into. And I probably should have jumped into it and started sooner. The problem is I kind of dread getting into this particular story or into today's particular talk because it's a little bit tougher on me. A lot more emotion, and emotions are hard, and I'm not fond of emotions, and so that's why I'm sort of up here trying to get myself hyped up for it, so you guys are my first one I get to start with. That's why I have a little page I create. It's of different things that I want to try and talk about as I go through and get off topic. So we're going to see how it goes. Today, in the information I give you today, I don't kick kids out in the hallway today. Kids who are not done with tests and stuff like that, they don't get to leave because of all the information I give you. I think today is the most important of all of them. The ones about me making poor choices and stuff like that, while entertaining, are really only to lead up to what I'm going to try and pass along to you. I believe I mentioned it with you guys earlier that one of the reasons why I tell these stories is that I wanted to have one last impression on you before you go on to 8th grade. And so I realized that one last impression, that one last message I have for you comes today. And so I want today to have as much weight and meaning as possible. Because pretty much my whole year of teaching has been building up to this one lesson that I'm getting ready to pass on to you. And that happens in a number of ways. One, I mentioned that I've been trying to earn your trust this year as a teacher. The fact that if I have not earned your trust as a teacher, then today does nothing. If you can imagine any one of your other teachers trying to pass along a heartfelt message to you, many of you would not sit quietly and listen to them. And so my goal this year, when I realized that this was what I wanted to do, was to earn your trust this year in any number of ways. And what I'm going to do in a moment is I'm going to sort of tell you why I do the things I do in the class and the fact that every single thing I've done this year was to make you a better person. It's just you guys don't always realize what I'm doing is to make you a better person. Once I earned your trust this year, we got into my stories of this week. And my stories of this week went a slightly different direction. And part of it is I realized that it's easy as a kid to see teachers as just adults that are hard to connect to. And so we're just these big, hairy people that stand in front of the class and yell at you at times. And I wanted to peel back the layers of that and allow you to see the fact that we're human. Specifically, I'm human. Very, very human. And the fact that too many teachers, too many adults try to put themselves above you and say that they're perfect and they don't make mistakes and that you need to live up to these really high expectations of who you should be. And I don't believe that in the same way. I believe they should have high expectations for you, but adults aren't perfect. Humans aren't perfect. No person is perfect. You will never be perfect. I apologize if that's a life goal of yours, but it'll never happen. I'm as close as you're going to get, and I'm not perfect. That's a joke. It's okay. And so the idea being is that humans and adults, they have unreal expectations for you. What I wanted to do was this past week, I wanted to show you the fact that I've made mistakes. I've made really big mistakes. And I wanted to give you a little glimpse into my family. And I talk about the fact that I come from a family of addicts and alcoholics and divorce. Both of my mom and my dad have been divorced multiple times, to the point where I actually don't know my real father. My real dad, my blood father, left when I was 5 years old and just abandoned the family and disappeared because, yay, parents. And then my stepdad raised me from that point on. I tell you that because I want you to understand that I know where many of you are coming from. Because I have a lot of kids that, when I talk to them, they think that adults have no idea what they're going through. And you have to understand that adults do. At the very least, I do. I've almost yet to have a kid come through my room with an issue that I've not experienced in one form or another over the years. I know where you're coming from. When I was going through it as a kid, I hated it because I thought it was awful and how it shaped my life. When the fact that I was bullied all throughout junior high. I was bullied until I got to high school, until I changed who I was, which I'll talk about more in a second. And I would have, at the time, changed that for anything, because I hated being bullied. The whole idea of hating yourself every day and all that, it was awful. But it made me stronger, and I'm not sure I would be as good of a person today if I wasn't. The world is full of hardships and unhappiness, and I wish I could tell you that it isn't, and that the world is nothing but rainbows and butterflies. But that's not the way the world works. There are going to be unhappy moments in your life. For some of you, you've already experienced some of those unhappy moments. I'm just going to put things up behind me because sometimes they'll help me as I go through. You've already experienced some of those unhappy moments, whether it's the bad home life, whether it's deaths in the family, whether it's bullying from other kids, but you've experienced some of that unhappiness in one form or another. For others of you, you've not, and you've had a relatively good life up to this point. You have a complete family. You have a mom and dad that are always there. You have parents that don't yell at you. You don't have to worry about drug addiction or alcohol or anything like that. And in that case, yay. But here's the issue. Your life won't be that way forever. Something unhappy will happen to you at some point. And life is about how you react to that. Are you strong enough to let these bad things make you a better person, or do you let them break you? Because at some point in your life coming up, you're going to have a moment where you have to start making that decision. Is this thing that's happening to me right now, is this thing that's going on with my parents or my friends or this kid at school, a thing that's going to make me want to give up, or do I find a way to make me stronger? So I gave you examples of me in ways that my things made me stronger. And I've used those as a teacher. My first several years of teaching, I was not a good teacher. I was a good person. I loved kids, and I loved what I was doing, but I was not a good teacher because I didn't know how to be a good teacher. You don't know how to be a good teacher until you've actually taught for a number of years. And I used to think that I was teaching English, and I don't. Especially at the junior high level, I don't teach English. I'm teaching you guys how to become better humans. And I use English to do it, but at the end of the year, I would much prefer you learn how to become a human that I respect more than you know grammar. Knowing grammar is important, but you can Google it in life. You can't Google how to have morals. You can't Google how to make the right choices. It's something that comes to you. So, I set up my classroom to try and make you a better person. And it's changed over the years as I find more and more ways to make you better people. My first year of college, I was a psychology major. I didn't want to be a teacher. I had no desire to be a teacher. I wanted to be the person that sits in the room and basically is like a therapist and talks to people. And I thought that'd be great because all throughout high school, I didn't really a class I enjoyed. I enjoyed English, but I didn't want to teach it. And then I had a teacher my senior year that I really liked who taught psychology, and it was about the idea of messing with people's heads. Naturally appealed to me. And so when I went to college, my first year, I took psychology courses, which are great because they teach you to understand people. And even though I didn't become a psychologist, It was one of the best things I ever did, was learning how to understand people. Because when I became a teacher, more than any English course I took, more than any teaching course I took, it was my psychology classes that helped me understand that people make choices for a reason. Here's how this affects you. You do what you do for a reason. You make the choices you make for a reason. It's my goal to help you shape that. So everything I do in my class is to try and help make you a better person in one form or another. It's human nature to want to make poor choices, because that's how humans are. We want to be lazy. We want to do the wrong thing, because I think it appeals to some innate part of us. So it's my job to try and help you not do that. So it's why I do things like making you stand when you don't do homework. Because I've realized that for some of you, you're naturally lazy or immature, or just have not reached that point in your life where you need to know that you have to learn these skills, or you don't have parents that yell at you enough to make you do this. So I make you stand. The reason I make you stand is because that's my way of telling you that I care about you. Because by making you stand, that means I am putting effort into you on a daily basis. Because I'm not giving up on you on a daily basis. So it's the reason why I make you stand. It's the reason why I have my behavior points. Because my behavior points are your way of sort of figuring out how to control your life. And you get to see that physical or a visual way of seeing how many good choices you are making. It's why I have my slow kids section. Because it's a way of helping you make good choices. And realizing that the choices you are making are not putting you on the correct path. You are going to keep making poor choices until someone makes you not make those poor choices. That should be your parent's job. Your parent should yell at you when you bring home bad grades. Your parents should ground you when you don't do homework. It is your parent's job to punish you when you make poor choices. But not every parent does that. Some, because it's exhausting. Others, because they're a single parent and they don't have time. Others, is because it's just not something that they do. So that falls on me to punish you when you make those choices, because I want you going down the correct path. So I will apply unhappiness to you until you change those ways. Making you stand makes you unhappy until eventually you do what I want. Putting you in my slow kids section and not letting you talk when that's what you want to do makes you unhappy. I have to keep applying enough unhappiness to you until you decide to change. It's when you become comfortable and you become happy with your poor choices, that means something's wrong. When you're doing a bad thing, and you know whatever that bad thing might be, whether it's not doing homework or whether it's doing drugs, and you're doing this bad thing and you're not getting repercussions for it, something's wrong. It's up to adults to help shape you. So I take it upon myself to help shape you in one way or another. And part of that is because having taught as long as I have, and it's a long time, since the dinosaur times, I've seen a lot of kids come through my room. And one of the reasons why I love what I do is I love kids. I love teaching. And I love seeing you guys become better humans at the end of the year. The fact that you guys go from the beginning of the year as goobery 7th graders to going off into becoming 8th graders, where you're going to have to face these big life choices. And I like seeing you mature and get better. The problem is, I've seen kids leave my room and then go to 8th grade and then go to high school, and I see some of them make poor choices. And I know that there are poor choices in front of many of you. And I've seen enough kids come through my room that I see paths in front of you. And I can see the fact that for many of you, there is a bright path of good choices and happiness, of making an honor roll, of doing the things you're supposed to, of going to college, of having a family, getting married, doing all those things that you want to do. And there's also a path in front of you of bad choices, of falling to drugs and alcohol, of not turning in homework, of dropping out, of getting pregnant while you're in high school, of not going along the path that you're supposed to. And for each one of you, every single one of you, you have those two paths. The issue is, for some of you, one path is wider than the other. And for some of you, those of you who are lucky, the good path is really wide, and the bad path is really narrow. And the chance of you going on that really narrow bad path is really small. And for you, my job's not as important, because you're already on that good path. And the chances of you going on to that bad path are not that strong. I don't have to worry about you. But I've had enough kids come through my room that I know not every kid's path is the big bright path. For some of you, the dark path is the big path. And the good path is the really small one. And the chance of you making it on to that good path is not very good. And that hurts me. Because that's the drawback about caring for people, is that you want good things to happen to them. You want them to have a good life. Because if you like somebody, you don't want them to be in pain. And I don't want you to be in pain. I don't want you to be the kid that comes back to me in high school to tell me about the fact that you're 16 and pregnant and having to drop out of school. Or about the fact that you've now been arrested and you're not sure what to do with your life. Or about the fact that you're having to drop out because you've gotten Fs. And I've had conversations with all three of those types of kids. And it hurts me. I don't stop talking to them. I don't cut them out. It makes my job that much more important. But I realize if I had done my job better when you were in 7th grade, then you wouldn't be going through that when you get farther along. So my job now is to try and bump you onto that bright path. And for those of you who have the really wide dark path, my job's really important. And it's for you that I worry. And it's for you that I want to make sure things go well. Now with that, you guys know there's kids at school who make poor choices, who do the things they're not supposed to. You know there's kids at school who are jerks, who are those bad kids. Here's the problem. Those kids grow up to be adults. Those adults have kids. What do you think their kids turn out to be like? Okay. Now, go back in time and realize that kid you see today who is a jerk, who is mean, who is unhappy, how do you think their parents are? How do you think their parent was as a kid? No one bullies, no one does drugs, no one is mean to others who is a happy person. If you're a happy person, you have no need to be mean to other people. You have no need to bully other people. You don't need drugs and alcohol in your life because it's just not the way humans are. It's when you have pain in your life that you need to find a way to hide that pain. You need to find a way to make that pain disappear. And that's why kids drink. That's why kids do drugs. And for junior high, it's why kids bully other kids because they don't know how to handle that pain. Some of you have two parents at home who are there every day. And when you come home from school, they tell you how much they love you. And they have dinner with you. And you sit around a dinner table. And when you do a thing wrong, they yell at you for it. And they ground you for it. And they let you know that the choices you've made are wrong. Congratulations. That's a good life. You might not like your parents at times, but that's not bad. Now here's what you have to realize. There's kids in this room right now who don't have that. Who don't have two parents at home. They have one parent at home. They have no parents who are home because both parents are gone all the time. Or they have one parent at home who drinks and is an alcoholic and yells at them at a daily basis. Or the fact that they have abuse that goes around them. They go home to unhappiness, and they go home to abuse, and they go home to hatred and anger. School is their happy place because school gets them away from home. School's not supposed to be your happy place. School is supposed to be a place where you get homework thrown at you. But if you can imagine those kids where they have to come here to get away from home, where the unhappiness is, these are 13-year-old kids. Imagine what that does to a person on the inside. It makes it really hard to deal with life. It makes you lash out in anger. It makes you do things you're not supposed to because you're 13 and you're not supposed to have to deal with things like this. You're supposed to have an easy, happy life with 2 parents at home and flowers and rainbows, but that's not the way the world goes. So here's why I tell you this. If you have that good life, and you see those people who are unhappy and lash out with anger and bullying, they need your love more than anybody else. They need your forgiveness more than anybody else. It's easy to be nice to people who are nice to you. The ones who need you to be nicest to them are the ones who deserve it the least, because they're the ones who have no happiness in their life, and they need someone to be nice to them. That's how this impacts you. As you move forward from this year on, and you interact with other people, think about that. Before you react to someone who is a jerk, who's mean to you, think about why they're being mean to you, and realize that they're hurting on the inside. As a teacher, one of the toughest things for me to learn was it's the kids who are the biggest distractions in class. The kids who are the biggest turds in class need me the most. Those are the kids who need me to be nice to them the most. Because the reason they're doing that is because there's something inside of them that is hurt and broken. When you see these kids in class, and your first reaction is, what an annoying turd, realize they're doing that because they need love. They don't know how to get love because there's no love at home for them. Now, some of you, as you move forward, you're going to have to make choices. As I mentioned, drugs, alcohol, stuff like that, no happy person does those. But obviously drugs and alcohol are an issue, specifically with kids, because kids face pain and poor choices, and they have to realize that there's a way to handle it. So at some point moving forward, you're going to have to make that choice about whether or not you're going to go down that path or not, whether or not this is a solution that works for you. I would like to think and hope that every single one of you is strong enough to say no to drugs and say no to drinking. But that's not the way it is. I'd love to tell you all that you will be, but statistically, it won't be. At some point, some of you are going to have issues. And I realized when I started doing this talk on the last day that for some of you, my speech, it doesn't really hit home for you. You're polite and you listen to me, but it doesn't have a lot of meaning for you, which is fine. For some of you, this does not have an impact for you because you come from that happy home. And that's why I add in the part of you having patience with others. But there's other kids in here who this hits a lot harder. And I realize that even if this only hits one kid, and if at the end of this it's only one kid that moves forward and this has an impact on and helps them make that choice, then for me, taking one day to do this, to help that one kid with that decision later in life, is worth it. It's why I end up doing what I do. For others of you, and this is where it changes from class to class, because for you guys, on a higher note, you guys are good kids. I have classes in the past where I see a lot more pain and a lot more heartache and issues, and I don't see that as much with you. Now, don't get me wrong. I know some of you guys have issues at home. I know a lot more than I show and a lot more than I talk to with you guys. And I know a a lot of stuff that goes on in your homes, but that doesn't affect my judgment of you in class. I don't judge. And so, sorry. My brain's going like 12 different directions at once because I see I have 10 minutes left and I still have so many different things I'm trying to say, so I'm trying to figure out how to get my brain to get all those different things into the one conversation at this moment. So let's go with bright side. No, wrong direction again. Patience. Sorry, you guys keep showing emotion, and it's really awful of you because I'm trying my best to ignore you and your emotions because emotions are things I don't personally believe in, but it's okay. Strong like bear. So here's what I want moving forward, and here's what I ask moving forward from you guys. One, you guys saw the fact that when you walked in, I had a kid sitting over in my chair. It was Jacob, who's finishing his sophomore year. Not Warmis, that's my cadet teacher. She's not Jacob, that'd be awkward. Yeah. It is Jacob Dixon. Yeah. And so, Jacob, who was a past student of mine years ago, and so I have a lot of high school kids who come in, especially this past week, who come and talk to me, and the same thing with college kids. And one of the things I offer is, me as a human, I don't judge. It's one of the things that I love my parents for, that they raised me to do, was to never judge other people. The fact that it doesn't help to judge someone on gender, race, background, who they are. And so I don't judge kids, ever, on what you've gone through, who you are, or what's happening to you. Because of that, I will always be willing to listen to you and talk. And so what I offer to you is the fact that if you ever do want to talk, I'm more than happy to. And for some kids, you don't need to, because there is not pain in your life that you need to let out, or there are no issues that you need to deal with. And I've realized over the years in teaching that sometimes I don't know which kids need talked to. I have guesses on which kids I think are in pain, and sometimes I know things in your home life and which kids I think need to talk. But some of you are good at hiding what's going on in your life, are good at hiding the pain and heartache that you're going through, and you don't let people around you know it. And so I offer to you, if you ever want to talk, you're more than welcome to. And it doesn't have to be face-to-face. For some of you, it would freak you out talking to me. You're more than welcome to email me or message me on Remind, and I will respond to you. Sometimes it takes me a week to get to you because I have a number of kids who do. But for many people, it's nice knowing that there's a person out there who will listen to you and not judge. And I will listen to you, and I won't judge. Even when you make that poor choice, even when you find yourself on that dark path and you think everyone has abandoned you, and life is going to end, know that, emotions, that I will not, and that I will happily listen to you and help guide you back on that path. So now I'm going to try and go in a slightly happier direction. Let's end on more of an upbeat note, which is positive things, and things I want you to take from this, is what you see from me in the front of the room, and why I wore the shirt I wore today was on purpose. I'm a happy person, but I'm a happy person by choice. I've let you in on a bit of a window to who I am, and the fact that you understand that I've seen pain, I've seen heartache, and I know what those bad things are. On a side note, this week, a close family member of mine has been in jail because of poor choices. And so that's something I've been dealing with in my own personal life. The fact that we thought we were past poor choices in my family, and we're not. And so after school, that's what I've been dealing with, is trying to help my family member get through choices of being arrested and being in jail. But you don't see that in class, because even knowing that, I choose happiness. Happiness is a choice. It's one that you have to make every day. It's easy to give in to evil. It's easy to give in to sadness and pain. But I don't. And I choose to look to the bright path every day. And the reason I tell you that is because it's something that you can do. You can choose a path of happiness. It is a choice you can make. Beyond that, you create the person that you are. When I was in junior high, I was the shy, quiet kid that didn't talk and sat in the back of the room and had anxiety and would freak out at the very idea of talking to adults. And I got to high school, and I realized that wasn't who I wanted to be, because I didn't want to live my life being quiet and shy and sitting in the back of the room and letting the world pass me by. And I worked really hard when I was in junior high to be popular. Even though I was shy and quiet, I tried to hang out with the popular kids. And I got to high school. It was my sophomore year when I was still trying to figure out how to be popular. And I realized that I didn't like the popular kids. I didn't think they were good people. I listened to them backstab each other and the conversations they had. And I realized I was wasting my life trying to hang out with people I didn't even like and I didn't even enjoy. And it was an epiphany. It's a big word that means a life-changing moment for me, where I decided that I was going to stop worrying about what other people thought about me. And I was only going to worry about what my close friends thought about me. And it made me who I am today. It made me the teacher I am today. You've seen people who are confident, who come across as cocky, who come across as knowing everything and being sure of themselves. It's an act. Every confident person you've ever seen, you've ever known, it's an act. They're pretending. The reason I know is because that's what I do. What you see in front of you is an act. I pretend to be confident because if you pretend to be confident enough, you become confident. If you ever want to change who you are, and you want to become a different person, and you want to live up to every bit of your potential, realize at any time there's only one person ever holding you back, and that's you. And as soon as you stop letting that person hold you back, as soon as you stop letting those fears hold you back, you become the person you want to be. And that was the big thing that I did, was I stopped letting my fears control me. Whatever your fear may be, stop letting that be a thing that controls you. 8th grade is a whole new year. People change between 7th and 8th grade. When you go into 8th grade next year, be the person you want to be. Because whoever it is, other kids will forget the old you. You can be happy, confident, strong, outgoing. You can be any of that stuff if you choose to be. Other kids will make fun of you. They'll give you a hard time. Kids don't like change. But you ignore it. And you be strong. And you realize the only person who can really judge you is you. And you give them time, and they'll accept the new you. And if they don't accept the new you, who cares? You accept the new you. And you be the person that you want to be. And you make the choices that you want to make. And you control your life. And that's why I record class. Because it'll be a different conversation for each one. Because I did not know what half hour of information was going to come out, but that was our half hour of information. Tomorrow, we're going to go in a happy direction. Be strong, be happy, control your life.